Usually when we think about a medical problem, we expect it to be loud.
Right, like a blaring alarm or something.
Exactly. I mean, if you break a bone, there's a snap,
Yeah.
right? You see a very clear fracture on an X-ray.
Oh, yeah. And if you get a fever, the thermometer just gives you a precise number.
Yeah, it's visible. It is instantly quantifiable.
Which makes sense, because we are entirely conditioned to look for those really obvious signals.
Definitely.
In most of our, medical experiences, the symptom and the cause are pretty much standing right next to each other in plain sight.
But then you step into the world of reproductive endocrinology,
Right.
specifically when you're trying to start a family. And suddenly, all of those alarms are just muffled.
It's so frustrating.
You're looking at a situation where everything on the surface might seem fine, or at least, manageable. But beneath the surface, the biological environment is quietly, invisibly hostile.
Yeah.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are so glad you are here with us, because today we are looking right at that hidden environment.
It is an incredibly complex space to navigate, both biologically and emotionally, especially for the millions of people living it every single day.
It really is. And to help you navigate it, we have a pretty dense stack of sources in front of us today.
We really do.
We are exploring an excerpt from a clinical book called Healing the Gilded Cage: Overcoming PCOS Through Ovarian Restoration.
That's a great title, honestly.
Right. But we aren't just looking at the book, we are pairing it with a really rigorous stack of peer-reviewed medical studies.
Spanning from the U.S. all the way to Europe.
Yep, including some major research out of Sweden's Karolinska Institute.
Which is huge. I mean, it's a remarkable collection of data because it bridges two worlds that people often assume are completely separate.
Ancient clinical practice and highly advanced modern cellular biology. And that actually brings us to our mission for this deep dive. If you are listening to this and you are trying to navigate polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS, and the endlessly frustrating maze of infertility that often comes with it, well, we are going to unpack the hidden microscopic culprit that might be preventing pregnancy.
And then we are going to explore how ancient practices are quite literally being validated by modern science to fix it.
Which is wild.
It really is. But to really grasp the gravity of this, we have to set the stage with just how prevalent PCOS actually is.
Right, because this isn't a rare anomaly.
Not at all. It is one of the most common reproductive age hormonal conditions in the world.
Wow.
And it is characterized by a whole constellation of outward symptoms that most people recognize. Highly irregular periods, relentless weight challenges, excess hair growth.
And perhaps most devastatingly for those trying to conceive, infertility.
Yeah, it's like the body is just constantly fighting itself.
And for a long time, the focus in standard care has just been on managing those outward symptoms.
Right, just dealing with the surface level stuff.
Exactly. But our sources today pull us away from the surface. They drag us down into the microscopic environment of the ovaries themselves. Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because the text uses a word that I think we all sort of misunderstand, which is inflammation.
Oh, definitely.
Like when we hear inflammation, we usually picture that twisted ankle. It's big, it's red, it's swollen, it's throbbing.
Right, it's an acute injury.
But the sources describe this entirely differently. It's a chronic, low-grade inflammatory state. So instead of a swollen ankle, think of the ovary like an assembly line manufacturing a highly complex microchip.
And the microchip is the egg.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is how the recent medical literature has completely recontextualized what that ovarian factory floor actually looks like.
How so?
Well, if we look at the supporting studies provided, specifically recent research by Orisaka in 2023 and a major systematic review by Dang in 2024, they make it very clear that this is not an acute injury.
Okay.
It is a systemic breakdown of the factory's climate control.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the machines are still running, but the temperature and humidity are just totally unregulated. It's like a microscopic, smoldering fire.
And the sources detail a very specific biological dual threat that causes this environment to break down, right?
They do. And the first threat is insulin resistance.
Right, which we usually associate with diabetes, not necessarily fertility.
Exactly. But it plays a massive role here. In insulin resistance, your cells basically stop responding efficiently to insulin.
And insulin is the hormone that unlocks the cell door to let glucose in for energy.
Right. So because the cells are ignoring the signal, the pancreas panics. It thinks, we need more keys, and it starts pumping out massive amounts of insulin into the bloodstream.
Just flooding the system.
Yeah, this creates a state of hyperinsulinemia.
So the bloodstream is just flooded with insulin, and the ovaries are marinating in it.
Yes, and the ovaries are highly sensitive to insulin.
So what happens when they get bombarded?
When they are bombarded by it, it triggers the second threat in our dual threat scenario, which is elevated androgens.
The male-type hormones.
Exactly. Specifically, the high insulin overstimulates the theca cells within the ovary. These are the cells responsible for producing hormones.
Right.
And under this immense pressure, they start churning out those male-type hormones, like testosterone, at abnormally high levels.
So you have these two massive hormonal imbalances just crashing into each other on the factory floor.
Precisely.
Yes.
And when severe insulin resistance and elevated androgens combine within that ovarian environment, they trigger a localized immune response.
That smoldering fire.
Yes. They cause the release of inflammatory cytokines, which are these chemical messengers like IL-6, right into the fluid of the follicle where the eggs are supposed to be safely developing.
So the microchips are essentially warping before they even leave the building.
Exactly.
Wait, let me challenge that.
Sure.
Because I think anyone who has been through fertility treatments is going to wonder about the mechanics here. If a woman with PCOS is working with her doctor, and she takes a medication like letrozole or Clomid, it physically forces the ovary to mature an egg and drop it.
Right. It induces ovulation.
Right. So if she successfully ovulates, doesn't that bypass the ovary's inflammation altogether? I mean, once the egg is out and moving down the fallopian tube, why does the pregnancy still fail? What is this inflammatory environment actually doing to the egg before it escapes?
That is the exact question endocrinologists have been trying to answer for the last decade. And honestly, the synthesis of the data is sobering.
Yeah.
It comes down to the timeline of egg development. An egg doesn't just, spontaneously generate the week of ovulation.
Right. It's not instantaneous.
No, the process of folliculogenesis, which is the maturation of the egg inside its little fluid-filled sac or follicle, takes months, often 90 to 120 days.
Oh, wow. So for 3 or 4 months before it's released, that specific egg is trapped inside that unregulated toxic factory.
Exactly. And researchers, including a massive physiological update mapped out by Diamante Kandarakis back in 2012, detail a severe chemical cascade that happens during those months.
Building on the 2011 Gonzalez study, right?
Yes, exactly. And what they show is that the inflammatory substances we just talked about don't just sit there inertly. They create a state of severe oxidative stress.
Which is essentially cellular degradation, like rust on a car, but happening on a microscopic level to a living cell.
That's a perfect way to visualize it.
Yeah.
On a molecular level, oxidative stress means you have a high concentration of free radicals.
And those are the bad guys.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
They are highly unstable molecules that are missing an electron. And because they are unstable, they violently scavenge the surrounding tissue, ripping electrons away from healthy cellular structures just to stabilize themselves.
And the egg is a target they're scavenging from.
Yes. And the key takeaway for anyone listening is how this directly impacts egg quality. I mean, the egg is the largest single cell in the human body. Yeah. And to do its job, which involves immense rapid cellular division after fertilization, it requires a massive amount of energy.
Makes sense.
That energy is produced by mitochondria, the power plants of the cell. And these free radicals, they actively attack and degrade the egg's mitochondria.
So they're literally draining the egg's cellular power supply.
Yes. And even more critically, they damage the egg's delicate genetic integrity.
And we really have to pause here to talk about why this matters so much to the person listening.
Absolutely.
Because this explains the absolute heartbreaking reality for so many women who are trying to conceive. I mean, you track your basal body temperature, you use the ovulation strips, you time everything perfectly, you take the medications to force ovulation.
Doing everything by the book.
Yes. You feel like you are doing everything absolutely right, and it is still failing month after month.
And the reason it's failing is because biology requires more than just the mechanical act of an egg being released.
Right.
A lower quality egg, one that has had its mitochondria drained and its DNA compromised by months of oxidative stress, is biologically disadvantaged from the very start.
It just doesn't have the tools it needs.
Exactly. It doesn't have the energetic capacity to properly fertilize. And even if it does manage to fertilize, it often lacks the cellular strength to divide properly and implant successfully into the uterine wall.
And if it does implant,
It struggles to develop into a healthy, viable pregnancy.
It's deeply unfair. You're putting in all the physical and emotional work, but the foundational material, the egg itself, has been quietly damaged before the process even truly begins.
Yeah.
Forcing the factory to ship the product doesn't change the fact that the product was built in a hostile environment.
It is devastating.
Yeah.
But, understanding this mechanism represents a massive shift in how we approach infertility in PCOS.
It clarifies that this isn't just an anatomical, mechanical failure of ovulation.
Right. It is an environmental issue within the ovary itself.
So if these toxic byproducts are actively destroying the egg's cellular structure before it even leaves the ovary, forcing ovulation just isn't enough. You have to detoxify the environment first.
Exactly.
And paradoxically, the Western medical journals in our source stack are now pointing to traditional methods to do exactly that.
Which is fascinating.
But I have to admit, when I first read the proposed solution in the text, I was highly skeptical.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of people are.
I mean, we just described a severe chemical cascade of free radicals and genetic damage, and the source's solution is acupuncture and herbs.
I know it sounds.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because my immediate thought is that this is just placebo. I mean, how do needles and plants actually rewrite a microscopic cellular environment?
It is the ultimate question.
Yeah.
And for a long time, Western medicine dismissed these modalities as exactly that. Just a nice way to relax, perhaps, but not a true biological intervention.
Right.
You can't exactly ask a patient to objectively rate their own cellular inflammation. However, the peer-reviewed data we have completely overturns that assumption.
So let's break down the specific physiological mechanisms proving these are profound biological interventions, starting with how researchers bypass the human placebo effect entirely.
Right. Let's talk about the rat model from Manaros in 2008.
Because rats don't experience a placebo effect from a nice spa atmosphere.
Exactly. Swedish researchers took a rat model of polycystic ovary syndrome. So these are rats biologically induced to have the exact same metabolic and ovarian dysfunction as human PCOS.
Okay.
And they didn't just give them normal acupuncture, they used low-frequency electroacupuncture.
Electroacupuncture.
Yeah. This involves running a very mild electrical current through the needles placed in specific muscle groups.
But what is the needle actually doing beneath the skin? Like, how does an electrical pulse in a muscle change the hormone levels in an ovary?
It all comes down to the nervous system. When you apply that low-frequency electrical stimulation to the needles, it targets specific sensory nerve fibers in the muscle tissue.
Okay.
Those nerves act as a direct highway. They send a signal up the spinal cord directly to the brainstem. Essentially, the needles hijack the brain's command center and force it to dial down the sympathetic nervous system.
Wait, the sympathetic nervous system, that's our fight or flight response, right?
Yes, exactly. This is what Johansson mapped out in 2013 with the Karolinska research. When you have chronic inflammation and PCOS, your body is in a constant low-level state of panic.
So, high sympathetic tone.
Yes. And this causes vasoconstriction, meaning the blood vessels tighten up. When blood vessels in the pelvis tighten, the ovaries are literally starved of healthy, oxygen-rich blood flow.
Which means those toxic inflammatory byproducts just pool and build up in the tissue.
Precisely.
Okay, so the needles send a signal to the brainstem to turn off the panic. And when the sympathetic tone drops, what happens?
The body shifts into a rest and digest state. The blood vessels dilate. Blood flow to the reproductive organs dramatically increases.
Wow.
And the results in the rat study were stunning. They found that this specific signaling literally normalized the expression of IL-6.
That major inflammatory cytokine we talked about earlier.
Yes, exactly, in the adipose tissue.
Right.
By physically forcing the nervous system to relax and opening up the blood flow, they directly cool down the biological inflammation tied to insulin resistance.
It's essentially acting as a neurological reset button. It uses the body's own wiring to flush out the factory floor.
That's a great way to put it.
But what about the herbs? Because fixing the blood flow is one thing, but we still have all those free radicals violently ripping electrons off the eggs.
Right.
How does drinking a plant extract or taking a capsule fix oxidative stress?
For that mechanism, we turn to a major scoping review by Chavez in 2023.
Okay.
This review looked at clinical trials involving plant-derived phytochemicals.
Phytochemical.
Yeah, they are the highly active chemical compounds naturally found in specific plants.
Are they like the plant's own immune system?
In a way, yes. They are the plant's defense mechanism against environmental stress. And what the molecular data shows is that when women with PCOS ingest customized phytochemical-rich formulas, These compounds act as direct electron donors.
Meaning they give the free radicals what they want, so they leave the egg alone.
Exactly. Remember, a free radical is aggressively seeking an electron to stabilize itself.
Right.
Antioxidant phytochemicals are structurally capable of voluntarily giving up an electron without becoming unstable themselves.
Oh, that's clever.
Right. They physically bond to and neutralize the free radicals. They basically act as a chemical cleanup crew, actively neutralizing the threat inside the follicular fluid.
Incredible.
This directly stops the cellular degradation, supports normal mitochondrial function, and ultimately restores the egg's ability to mature properly.
It is wild to think about. You have the needles manually resetting the electrical system to restore blood flow, and then the specific plant compounds acting as a molecular shield to protect the egg's DNA.
This raises an important question. How did traditional medicine practitioners, working centuries before the invention of the electron microscope or the discovery of DNA, figure out how to target these exact inflammatory pathways?
I mean, it's mind-blowing.
They didn't know the phrase sympathetic downregulation or oxidative stress, yet they built an entire diagnostic and treatment system that flawlessly addresses the exact pathology of PCOS.
They mapped the body through meticulous observation and clinical trial and error over thousands of years.
Yes.
And now we have advanced medical institutes hooking up monitors and sequencing genetics, essentially proving the exact physiological mechanisms of why those ancient observations were right.
The inflammation genuinely clears.
It is a beautiful, rigorous convergence of ancient clinical wisdom and modern empirical biology.
It truly is.
Which brings us to the practical application. Because understanding the abstract science of nerve pathways and phytochemicals is empowering, but how does this actually help a real patient?
Right. How does it look in practice?
Yeah. Our source text specifically highlights Mike Berkeley and his clinic, the Berkeley Center for Reproductive Wellness in New York City, as a case study for how this science is applied in the real world.
Yes, the text uses his practice to illustrate what this highly specialized care looks like when brought out of the laboratory and into a clinic.
He's been doing this a long time.
Oh yeah, since 1998. He is a licensed acupuncturist and a board-certified herbalist who has been exclusively focused on reproductive wellness for over 2 decades.
So what does this all mean for the patient experience? When someone actually pursues this route, what is the difference between a clinical protocol like this and just, going online and buying a generic fertility support supplement?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the absolute core thesis of our source material is the absolute necessity of customized care.
Customization is key.
Yes. A generic over-the-counter supplement is a scattergun approach. It's a standardized dose just hoping to hit a target somewhere.
Right.
But what a clinical protocol does, as illustrated by the Berkeley Center, is tailor the intervention to the highly unique biological presentation of each individual patient.
Because no two cases of PCOS are exactly alike.
Exactly.
One person might have severe insulin resistance driving the inflammation, while another might lean much heavier toward the androgen excess or maybe the sympathetic nervous system overdrive.
Precisely. The environment of the factory breaks down differently in every single patient.
So you need different tools.
Exactly. By combining targeted electroacupuncture sessions to specifically improve pelvic blood flow and regulate the nervous system with highly customized phytochemical formulas designed to neutralize the specific hormonal imbalances of that individual, the treatment addresses the root biological cause.
It is not forcing the body to work through the damage.
No, it is systematically dismantling the microscopic disease process.
It's kind of the difference between taking a painkiller for a rotting tooth and actually going in, clearing the infection, and filling the cavity so the tooth can function normally again.
Exactly. And as that inflammation systematically decreases through this targeted protocol, the environment inside the ovary fundamentally changes.
The fire goes out.
Right. The oxidative stress clears, the mitochondria recover, and as a direct biological result, the egg quality noticeably improves.
Wow.
You give the body the internal environment it actually needs to support a healthy, genetically sound ovulation and a viable conception.
Which is just an incredibly empowering message. If you or someone you love is navigating the heavy, often isolating burden of PCOS and infertility, the overarching message from today's sources, from the ancient herbal texts all the way to the modern European medical journals, is that you do not have to face this alone.
Absolutely not alone.
You are not broken, and you are not out of options. There are scientifically rigorous, biologically sound support systems available to you.
And for those who are ready to explore what this actually looks like in practice, the source material points to the Berkeley Center as a prime resource.
Right in New York City.
Yeah, and you can visit their website at berkeleycenter.com to actually see how these customized protocols are structured.
That's BERKLEY center.com.
Right. And learn more about the integration of acupuncture and herbal medicine in reproductive care.
Looking at how the science is applied could really change the entire trajectory of your fertility journey. It's about taking that biological control back.
It really is. And as we wrap up our analysis today, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on the analogy we explored earlier.
I love a good final thought.
Throughout this deep dive, we've seen that modern fertility treatments so often focus purely on the mechanics.
Right, forcing the factory to just output the product.
Yes, forcing the seed to simply drop on command. But this research forces us to ask a much larger question. How many other chronic health battles are we fighting in all areas of medicine by only looking at the final output instead of simply doing the vital, necessary biological work to heal the soil it grows in?
Healing the soil. That is exactly what this is all about.
It really is.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep looking beneath the surface, and take care of yourselves.
Take care, everyone.
We'll see you next time.